Okay, go ahead and get started with Coach Wilcox. As always, just let us know in the chat and we'll go from there. We'll go ahead and get started with Jeff Ferrata.
Good evening, Justin. Can you give us an update on, is there anything you can tell us about any of the guys who didn't play last week in terms of their availability possibly on Friday?
Mike Safel and Christopher Brown would be game time decisions. And the others who are not on the trip, we don't anticipate having available.
If I can ask you a follow-up, can you talk about the progress you're seeing out of your young offensive linemen in practice this week and what you expect them to be able to do to sort of build on last week?
Well, I think the game reps were invaluable. They always are. And thought they did a great job this week in meetings and taking those meetings and applying it to practice. And then the practice repetitions, which they hadn't been getting as many just because of the way our practices are set up with our 75-man structure. And so I thought it was, really valuable to those guys. I thought they had a really good week, and we would expect them to continue to get better. I mean, I think just feeding them reps and meetings and practice, especially at that age and with that experience level, just that's the way to go. And ultimately, the best teacher is those game reps, and so they'll continue to get better. They probably won't be perfect, but expect them to continue to get better.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to Rusty Simmons.
Coach, I was going to ask about Coach Shaw. You've seen him a number of times now as a head coach and coordinator. Are there kind of hallmarks to his offense?
Yeah, I think, got a chance to compete against Coach Shaw for a while now. And when I was a defensive coordinator at a couple spots, and then obviously being here at Cal, and he's a heck of a coach. I think they always do a great job of, putting their best players in positions to make plays and leaning on their strengths. And so maybe one year to the next, it might look a little different because of their roster and how those things change, but they're always, it's well put together, and they, kind of their run game, pass game always complements each other. And you can tell it's a well-coached unit. And traditionally have really strong quarterback play, which they do again this year. And got some good players across the board.
You kind of answered it already, but Coach Shaw said yesterday in talking about you, saying that you've kept your principles while your defenses have always evolved. Do you see that at all at what he's doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I think that's exactly what they do. I mean, they will, if their personnel and the style of play lends itself one way, they're going to really lean on that. I mean, I think there's the foundation of what they do. You see from year to year, whether it's the run game or the pass game or kind of how they attack people. But there's always, the kind of each game and each season can look a little different just because of, how those games go or how that season goes and the matchups within those games. So again, I think you can tell just by watching them on tape, they just do a really good job of developing their team and players and having an identity. There's a foundation there that you see, and then really leaning on their best players.
Okay.
Thank you.
Rusty, good. Then we'll move on to Trace Travers from Rivals.
Yeah, I asked Coach Sermon about, you guys ran a lot of 3-3-5 personnel, which may not show what front you run. You guys run a lot of even front as opposed to odd. But how much does having not as many outside linebackers available kind of change your scheme and change the assignments of some of the inside linebackers?
Yeah, the inside linebacker positions don't maybe change as much. They have odd structure and even structure for those guys. It's the outside guys, and I assume you're talking when we're playing with three big guys, Cam, and then maybe a DB, whether it's Trey Pastor or Daniel or one of those guys, and that just gives us some flexibility to play either odd or even. It also maybe adds a DB on the field as opposed to another outside linebacker where we're, as you mentioned, there's, fewer guys available right now. And so I think it's born out of, kind of getting our best 11 on the field and still giving us some flexibility to play some different fronts within that grouping. But at the end of the day, they're kind of all X's, whether that person opposite Cam is another outside linebacker or a nickel or kind of a hybrid guy, a star position. But it does give us some flexibility. I think the coach has done a nice job of packaging it so we can get our best guys on the field, still be multiple enough on, mixed downs, not just maybe first and second or not just third, just be able to play it all the way through.
Yeah, and how has Cam Good done as that sole outside linebacker in some of those situations?
I think Cam continues to get better. He's had a couple injuries in his career here, but we've seen the big plays that he's made for a number of years now. And I think one of his most consistent and maybe overall one of his best games was last week. I thought he played really, really well. And I think he would like to continue to, finish a couple more of those pass rushes. There's a couple chances he's had in the first couple of games to get the QB on the ground where he didn't quite finish it as well as he would have hoped. But I think Cam continues to work and get better, and we're glad he's out there.
And do you expect to keep with some of that 3-3-5, considering what Stanford's kind of, I guess, moved to in the past couple of years as far as being a passing
It's possible. Team? I mean, it's possible. We carry different packages and groupings into the game, anticipating what we think we might see, and then inevitably, teams don't always do what they've done, the game prior or 2 games prior. So there's wrinkles in there, but we'll carry those different packages and then adjust as needed during those games. But it's a group that we like. And again, it just kind of helps us get our best 11 on the field.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Okay, we'll move on to Owen Kaminsky.
Hey, Coach. With everything, has this week at practice still felt like a big game week?
As much as it could in 2020, you bet. I mean, the players and the coaching staff are well aware of the big game. We've talked about it during the week. And, I wouldn't say it changes our preparation from drill to drill or the plays we're working on or the fundamentals and skills, but I do want them to have that feeling as best we can in this season, because it's a special game and it's a special rivalry. And it's one of the greatest rivalries in all of sports. And so I want them to be able to appreciate that as best we can in these circumstances. So we'll continue to make them aware. And I think we talked about this last year. I don't know if you were here, Owen, but your first year here, whether you're a first year coach or player, you learn about it, you kind of hear about it, but you don't just like get it injected into your blood immediately. I think it takes a little bit of experience to see it and be a part of it. And the older you get and the more you go through it, boy, it starts to grow on you. I'm sure you could ask, these familiar faces, and it's just a pretty special rivalry. And I think the older you get, the more you go through it, it grows that much more inside of you. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then obviously last year you had the famous rushing the field celebration at the end of the game, but this year that can't happen. How do you feel for the fans that won't able to be a part of it this year?
I really feel for everyone. And we all wish that we were at a place right now that people could be at the games, and unfortunately they can't. That's one of those, we talk about controlling the controllables, and that's not one we can control. So we want to do our best to go out there and play really well so our fans can watch and be proud of their team. And we're working on that every day because we know how much it means to them and obviously how much it means to us here. So hopefully next year we'll be back in person.
Hey, Owen, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. We'll move on to Rusty Simmons.
Following up on what Owen was asking about celebrations and fans, Coach, how involved are you in your first home game here during the pandemic about sound, noise, and kind of the atmosphere that'll happen on Friday?
Well, we've practiced with that throughout our fall practice time, and then at the both away games we've been through it. And there's some parameters that they put on the ambient noise and then the crowd noise when they can crank it up or turn it down. And there's some people here at our facility that are in charge of that, but they got to follow the rules. It's not a free for all on how high you turn it up or when you turn it up. It has to be certain plays, certain parts of the game, and then there's the decibel levels. And I don't know. Kyle probably remember the levels, but it's, after a big play, you get a certain decibel level, and then you got to bring it back down in a matter of seconds. So it's really well thought out. But I'm just putting the trust in the people that are running it, and hopefully we can get some big plays happening so they can crank it up a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll go back to Trace Travers.
I was actually going to ask if the crowd noise have, in your experience with your first 2 games, you've heard it be kind of, do they have one crowd noise package, or is it unique to every school, or is it unique for you guys when you guys do it, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think you get, the ambient noise is kind of one thing, and then you have your fight song and maybe your traditional songs that are played, or third down themes. I think I've noticed that at a couple of the games. So it'll be the same for us. And we got a great group of people that have really honed in on that, and they've been at practicing. So we've got some reps at that up in the booth with our mixers, I guess, be like at a rock concert, I suppose. So I think they'll be ready to go.
A DJ Norm on the case.
That's right.
Yeah. And I got nothing. Thanks, Coach.
Yeah.
All right, Josh Morgan.
Hey, Coach, with the 0-2 start, how much extra would it mean to get that first win over Stanford this year?
Well, we go out every week with that being the number one goal. And what's important is that we understand what it takes to get that done. Wanting to win, that desire lives within every competitor. So it doesn't make us special that we want to win, because everybody wants to win. What we need to focus in on is how are we going to get that done? And that's through practice and ultimately execution in the game. So we spend our time working on that. And we understand, the rivalry, and we appreciate that rivalry, but really we got to focus in on the plays that are going to come up on Friday afternoon that are going to determine the outcome of the game, and put all of our focus and energy on that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, Owen Kaminsky.
Hey, Coach, just 2 quick things I'm curious about. Do you guys have any plans for like a Thanksgiving dinner with the team?
We're not able to. I wish that we could. Same kind of question about the crowd. I think we all wish we could do that. We're not allowed to do that right now. So they'll get a to-go meal that'll be Thanksgiving themed, and I know everybody will enjoy that. We all of us wish we could sit down for a nice Thanksgiving meal and share that with our team, and for you all, your family and friends. It's not in the cards right now. So we'll do the best that we can.
All right, yeah. And then the second question is, do you know where the axe is going to be on Friday?
Yeah, it'll be at the stadium. They got it set up, I believe, in the south, and Kyle may correct me on this one. I think it's going to be down the south end zone.
Yeah, it's going to start behind our bench, and at the end of the game, it'll move to the south end zone. You good, Owen?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Rusty Simmons.
Those were more important questions. I should have asked you what kind of pie you like on Thanksgiving, Coach.
Oh, Rusty, that's a heck of a question now. I usually the first time around will kind of sample, to see textures and flavors, and then I'll maybe take a bite of each and then go back for kind of the main course of the pie. So I've been an apple guy, I like apple pie and vanilla ice cream. I mean, how just plain Jane is that? Sorry, I didn't have something better, but that's what I'd go with.
Sometimes that plain is the right answer.
It is traditional.
I do need to ask you about Davis Mills, Stanford's quarterback. What do you see in him?
He can really throw it. He's a very talented passer. He's a big guy. Played against him last year, and he can throw the football. I think he just looks like he's in command of the offense and can make throws down the field. So got a lot of respect for him as a QB and as a passer.
And then last one, Stanford is often defined by their offensive line. I know it's a small sample size with 2 games this year, but what have you seen on tape?
Physical, that's usually the first thing that jumps out when you're watching those guys play. Is they're a physical bunch of guys, big, kind of, I guess, what we've become accustomed to and playing against those guys over the last 10 years or so. Just got a really good size up front, and they do a nice job with their run schemes and keep you off balance, as I mentioned earlier. So they're well coached and good group. And, I know our guys are going to be just, really, really excited to go out and compete against them, obviously because it's a big game, but it's a really good team and it's a great test for us. And I think we're all eager to get back on the field and compete.
Thank you.
We have time for a final question. If anybody has one, let me know in the chat. Okay, I think we're good. Thanks a lot, Coach.
All right. Thank you all. Happy Thanksgiving.
Coach. Thanks, Coach. Same to you.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.